So I wrote the poem How Time Fled, which was published by Skyfright magazine. It's about the vortex that is college football, that is football in general, your life as a football player. When you're getting recruited, there's such an excitement, buzz. Even just game day in high school, there's such a buzz about football season. And getting recruited, getting scholarships, going to official visits. There's all this excitement, and you're constantly moving and going according to the rush and the thrill that you were seeking from wanting to become a football player. And that doesn't stop. Once you get into the sport, you continue to move at a pace that's aligned with the status quo for the program. You're constantly going to workouts, going to classes, doing extra work, 7-on-7, extra conditioning drills, positional group drills, and that's in the summer. That's in the fall, for especially training camp. It's 100% football all the time for an entire month. In the season, it's heavy, morning class load. You're up early. You're going to workouts. You're going to class. You're going straight to football, and that just continues throughout the year. There's really no breaks. In fact, if you're a good team, your winter break as a normal college student gets taken away. And that may seem like a positive thing, as you're getting celebrated as a team, you're going to play for a championship, you're traveling to these great stadiums and great cities. At the same time, you're practicing a whole lot, and you're getting limited actual rest from a mental, physical, and spiritual standpoint. It's not true rest. It's moments here and there, but you're really just continuing to go and go and go. And in the off season, it's the same thing. You have workouts, you have a heavier class load, you got spring practice coming right up, you got preparation for spring practice. And so the point of this poem is that you're within this system, within college football, or pro is a little bit different, but within college football specifically, you're learning how to survive a constant drive to succeed. You're learning how to survive a system that is pulverizing and trying to extract as much out of you as possible. Whereas if you take a step back and look at what's happening, you've got this whole community, this whole campus of people who are supporting the team, wanting the team to win. They are a lot of times dependent on the team, on the football team, to provide to them. It's the college football team that is providing a lot of the money, the funding for other programs. It's the college football program that is really the golden calf of that system. So there's a lot riding on the shoulders of the team to succeed. And if they don't succeed, that's not a good situation. And so that's it's not only the pressure from the fans, but it's also the expectation that we're always to be working. It's also the understanding that what we're learning in that situation, in that system, is not normal life. Because when we get out of the system of college football, and for few of us, very few, minimal, and in fact, very even a smaller percentage that go to college go even to the pros, which is not what everybody who goes into college thinks that the pros are their next step, and that's not even close to the reality. But when you get out of college, it's you had learned to survive the system that tells you what to do all the time. You're always moving, you're always going, you're always what's next. And if you're not doing that, you're falling behind. And if you fall behind, and that's the only thing that you've hoped for, and that's the only thing that you have attributed your identity to, then what do you have to stand? What do you have to fall back on? And when you get out of the college football system and you believed that you were going pro and you don't, and all you know is that system of continuing to move and strive and push beyond the signal not to, and never really truly having a rest, what else are you going to do but continue to use that same system? Your operating system is now push harder. You're not doing enough. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. You're falling behind. These words, these thoughts in the back of our head, like if we don't make it, we're nothing. If we don't make it, we're never going to amount to anything. And also this system that we have to be moving, we have to be going at all times. The ones that make it are the ones that are always moving, are always pushing themselves beyond the status quo, beyond the average. But real life isn't that way. College football is training these kids how to lead non-healthy lives, to lead stressful lives, how to survive stressful situations. You can think about it like having grown up in an abusive household. The abusive household is what you know. And so if you're in an abusive household, the chances that you are going to latch on to something that's unhealthy to help you cope are very high. And hopefully that doesn't take you down a dark path, but sometimes it allows you to make a decision between going down a dark path or deciding not to do so, doing something different than what your family has done, and changing or flipping the script for yourself. But that decision is difficult to make. And what people from abusive households do when they go into the real world, they have to adapt to a different operating system. If you know how to survive that operating system, well, there's certain things that you do. There's certain things that you look to or you grab onto or you ingest to make you feel better so that you can survive that abusive situation. When the fact of the matter is, you still believe it's an abusive situation when in reality, you're out of the abusive situation, but you're still living as if you are inside of it. Same thing with college football players. These college football players learn a system that is ill conducive for optimal health. Look at offensive linemen and defensive linemen. Look at their bodies. Look at how massive they are. They're not learning how to take care of themselves. They're not learning how to improve their body. They're not learning how to improve their body fat percentage. They're learning how to gain weight. They're learning how to adapt to the role of the football player. That doesn't necessarily mean that becomes a healthy person. And so when they get out of this unhealthy situation and they go into normal life and they have to do it on their own, that's a difficult transition. That's a transition that these players are not being prepared to make. These players are not being launched from college into a different environment. They're being adapted to an unhealthy environment and molded to fit a prototype for modern society. And when they don't fit that mold, they're labeled as outcasts. But in reality, what they are living in line to their truth. True. Of course, all you see on TV is that it's good. These players are getting, doing well. That's only scraping the surface of what's happening underneath. In college football today, most players are not prepared. Most good players are not prepared for college, but they're taken to college. The only reason they go to these colleges is because of their athletic abilities. And as soon as they're done providing the school with what the school wanted them to provide, they are kicked out into the world and expected to handle the world on their own, having not been given the ability or the discipline or the understanding of who they are as people, but instead having been told and reinforced that the most important thing about them and the thing that's going to overcome all of their character flaws are their athletic abilities. I'm not saying everybody's like this, but I'm saying for the most part, the majority of players look in the locker room. The majority of players are not there for school. They're there to go pro. They're there because they believe they've been told by coaches that they have the ticket to go pro. And so they don't go to classes. We don't have time to go to classes. We don't have the energy to go to classes. We don't have any, and even if we do go to class, we're not paying attention and we don't realize I'm saying we as if I didn't go to class or if I didn't pay attention, but I did, and I was one of the lucky ones. And I wrote a poem about one of the lucky ones where I understood that I didn't know if football was going to be my path, and so I took it upon myself to create a backup plan. But what that did when I decided that I was going to create a backup plan in addition to football was that I lost out on learning about who I was and my identity and what I wanted to do with my life. I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor. I thought I wanted to be a football player. I had no idea what else was out there. I didn't take the time. College is about exploring and understanding and learning who you are and becoming a person that's not adapted to society, but becoming a person that's able to understand themselves so they can make a positive impact in the world. And if that's not what college is for, then what is it for? Are we just training these kids to work hard and and do their best to try to become great football players when we all know that that's going to end at some point? And when they're done with making whatever money they do or don't make, probably don't, who have they become in the process? Well, they've become better football players, but a better football player doesn't necessarily mean that you've become a better human. In fact, there's a bias against football players, the whole jock stereotype, because you get all this attention for being a football player. And people think that they're football players because that's where they get the heaviest reward, as being the one who scores touchdowns or making big plays. And all this crowd, the crowds go wild, and people notice them on the streets or on campus, with all this money, or with being on TV or whatever it is. And they know them for being a football player. So they think they're a football player. But when that ends, what is left? Of course, they're more than that. Of course, every single football player that goes through these programs is so much more than a football player. But they think that the most important thing about them is that football is their ticket, and they go to these universities. And it's actually, in my opinion, the opposite. I think playing football overall is contradictory to a healthy, wholesome, long life. Because if you're banging your head against somebody else's head every single day, and if your aim is to become a better football player, when you know that the chances that you make it past 20, 21, or 22 playing football is slim to, but that's all you're spending your entire year playing football. What are we doing? Who are you becoming? What if all of that time was spent being a human being? What if all that time was spent learning how to listen to yourself, learning about what you like, learning about different professions, learning different skills that you can use for the rest of your life, learning how to be healthy? What if, instead of having all that pressure on your back, you're supporting and nourishing yourself so that you can make the world a better place? And that when you get out of college, you're not overloaded and depressed because your dream of having not made it didn't come through, but instead you're ready to go out into the world and make a difference. And what if, instead of all these 120 players getting paid to be football players when they're in college, when we all well know that winning the lottery does not change, does not help you in the slightest. In fact, give all this money to these college players, they're going to spend it. They're going to think they're football players. They're going to get lazy. They're not going to go to class. They're not going to do anything with this money except blow it and ruin the transformational period of that is supposed to be college football. What we're doing with college football is training these kids how to survive an abusive situation. And what these kids are when they come out are survivors of abusive situations, and they're most likely using things, professions, frameworks, operating systems of their mental machinery in order to survive what they perceive as an abusive situation. But if they were to let that all go and realize who they are as people, and that you don't need to chase these things, you don't need to chase money in order to have success. In fact, money comes to you the more you know about yourself. And if you don't chase girls or substances or status, social status, and if you don't try to keep up with the wave, but instead you take a step back and you relax, well, in fact, you become the wave. What I'm seeking to do in this poem is to express the misconception people have about football and how good it is. Being overloaded 20 is not normal. It's not healthy. It's not helping these kids after college. It's not helping them understand what they can do, all the different things that they can do with their time. And when all that time is dedicated towards one specific goal, and it's not dedicated towards learning who they are within and nourishing their hearts, we're creating hollow humans, easily broken. Time for a change.